Yep.
So I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Norton Conservation Commission, Monday, December 2nd, 2019. We are beginning with a notice of intent for...
Back up. Update of the water buddies.
We are beginning with an update of the Water Bodies Management Program, ESS group. And you state your, oh, okay, well, here comes, go ahead.
Keep going.
Okay,
Take his coat off.
Hello, everybody. My name is Matt Ladley. I am ESS Group. I'm a certified lake manager and ESS, the town's consultant that's been working on the management of the town's lakes and ponds, including Lake Winnicott, Norton Reservoir, Chartley Pond, and Barrowsville Pond. Under our orders and conditions, we're required to present an annual report to you guys every year on what we've done and what we plan to do next year. So I'm going to give a real brief run through and then open up to questions in case anybody has it. Go to the next slide. So it's just an overview. There's lots of details on here, but the point that you want to take away from this, I'll see if my laser camera works. Something works on the screen. That's okay. We didn't do any treatment this year in Winnicott Pond at all. We did in Norton Reservoir where we had herbicide applications and did some hand harvesting with water chestnut. And we also did management in Chartley Pond. We did the same things. Barrowsville Pond, the program is actually discontinued for this year. Don't know if it will be revisited in the future, but we didn't go to Barrowsville Pond this year. Next slide, please. A little more detail on what we actually did at Norton Reservoir and Chartley Pond. We applied the herbicides Dicot and flumioxazin, also known as Clipper, about 35 acres in Norton Reservoir. And we also did hand harvesting, as I mentioned, of water chestnut, about 2 days of effort. And then at Chartley Pond, I actually have some handouts if you guys would like some. Maybe want a hard copy?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Sure.
Thank you.
Hard copies all right?
Please.
Yeah. Kind of pass them on. At Chartley Pond, we used Dicot as well, about 10 acres of treatment there, and also did some hand harvesting, about a day of effort to pull water chestnut. Next slide, please. So now we'll go pond through pond and just give you an update on what it looks like. So here's Lake Winnicott. On the left, you've got the variable leaf milfoil, which is one of our worst nuisance species, cover from 2018. It's actually pre-treatment cover in 2018. I just wanted to use that to show you how much there was in the lake not that long ago. And on the right is 2019 results. This is late season, so this is basically the maximal plant growth for the year. So you see we've had a lot of reduction since the program was begun, actually back in 2017, and even since 2018. We didn't do any treatment this year, so this actually, believe it or not, on the right represents some regrowth. Early in the season we had almost none of the invasives, but they are starting to come back slowly, and so this sort of informs what we might want to do for next year. Next slide, please. So for next year, we basically made the recommendation that some sort of treatment should be applied next year just to keep the weed beds that have been regrowing this year in check so that they don't get out of control like they were when you started. This may consist of a sonar treatment, which is the same herbicide we used back in 2017 and 2018 and is currently approved under order conditions. However, there's also a new herbicide out called Triplex that was actually used in Massachusetts this year. It's effective on variable leaf milfoil, which is one of our primary target species. We have proposed potentially using that just because it's a little easier to use, doesn't require as much contact time as the sonar, and you get really great results from what we've seen so far on variable leaf milfoil. It's not currently in the permit, so if we wanted to do that, we'd have to come back to you guys. I don't know how the town's going to proceed with that, but I just wanted to put that in front of you as something that might happen next year. The sonar, as I mentioned before, is approved, so if they anticipate going forward with that, obviously we'd do the notifications, but it's already approved for use. And diver harvesting or DASH, which is the diver assisted suction harvesting, is something that we considered doing. But given how dense and how extensive the plant regrowth was this year, even though it doesn't look like much in the map, those approaches were not deemed to be appropriate for this year. Basically, if it's anything more than an acre or two, it's really hard to get those to work because there's slow progress. So we're not quite at the point yet where I think we're going to make any good inroads using those methods. So we've not necessarily recommended them for next year. Okay, next slide, please. And then we're moving on to Norton Reservoir. This is the map for milfoil. Again, we're looking at 2018 pre-treatment, so this is sort of the best conditions we had back in 2018 when we had maximum control. And now 2019 post-treatment, this is late summer, we've seen an expansion of this particular species. And you'll see a kind of a common theme on the next couple of slides, and we can go to the next one. This is fanwort. We've seen a real big expansion of fanwort, actually. We had really good control of it after treatment in 2018. And now by this year, we did have some spot treatments this year to control for some of the worst beds of fanwort, but obviously it's becoming widespread enough that it looks like we're going to need to do something more about it than we did this year. And you can go to the next slide. Water chestnut has been one of the success stories so far here. We've mostly been able to keep it limited to the same areas. We have had a little bit of expansion down in the southwestern coves, just west of Route 140. But it's been, for the most part, pretty minimal, so you just see a few yellow spots on there. I anticipate we'll probably need to do a little bit more effort next year just to make sure we're absolutely keeping it in check. Because when we went back and did our post-treatment or post-harvesting mapping this year, we did find that there were some spots that the contractor who was doing the hand harvesting missed. So we don't want that to happen in the future years. So we might need some more effort there the next year. Okay, next slide. So to sum it up for next year, our recommendations for Norton Reservoir are revisit the idea of doing another sonar treatment. This worked really well the first time it was done in 2017. We got really good control of both fanwort and exotic milfoils. But since then, we've seen some regrowth, and the spot treatments haven't really done enough to keep that at bay. We could do some spot treatments if the town decides either they don't have the money or they don't want to move forward with the full sonar treatment. That would sort of keep things at bay a little bit, but it wouldn't necessarily bring those exotic weed populations down to a minimum like we saw before. We definitely do want to continue with the hand pulling of water chestnut so that it doesn't get out of control into larger areas, because that's one of the worst invasives that we've got in town, actually. And then we've got algicide treatments that we can do. We haven't needed those so far. We had a few algae issues that were raised to us this year. We went out and checked them out because people thought they might be cyanobacteria. So it's good that they raised the flag. We weren't able to find any cyanobacteria when we collected our samples, so that's good news so far. Next slide, please. And this will be the last pond, and then I'll let you guys ask any questions you have. So this is Charlie Pond. This is kind of a different situation than the other two. Charlie Pond was drawn down in the summer of 2018, so we didn't do anything out there. We didn't really map it until the water came back up late in the year, and we weren't sure what impact that drawdown was going to have. So all the maps you'll see here are just from 2019. So you see here with milfoil. On the left-hand side, we've got the pre-treatment cover for variable leaf milfoil. On the right side, the post-treatment cover. So where we treated, we got pretty good control for this season. I expect a lot of those beds to come back next season because what we used was not a systemic herbicide because we didn't have one permitted for this particular pond, which is a contact herbicide. But we did have some decent results once it was treated. Took care of a decent amount of the infestation for this year. Okay, go ahead to the next slide. And this is fanwort. This is a species that we first saw back in 2017, and then we had the drawdown in 2018. It wasn't much of it in 2017. So we wanted to see what happened after the drawdown. Well, we went out this spring. We had that little red dot where we found kind of a dense patch that we wanted to monitor and hopefully try to tackle with diver harvesting this year. But by the time we got out there, fanwort is one of these species that in the spring when you go out and do your pre-treatment mapping, you can't really see the full extent of it because it hasn't really, it's a late bloomer, essentially a late grower for the year. So So when we went back in the late summer to do our post-treatment mapping, we found that it actually expanded quite significantly. So this is one that we're going to need to watch out for in the future. Next slide, please. And then the water chestnut, we knew we had lots of water chestnut in Charlie Pond in the past. On the left-hand side, you have the pre-treatment conditions, and on the right-hand side, you'll see most of the water chestnut that was in the eastern part of the pond was successfully harvested. The parts that were missed by the contractor were mainly to the far west, where there's not really that much water. We're not exactly sure why they were not harvested, but there were still some beds back there that would need to be focused on next year. Okay, next slide, please. And then, so to sum up for Charlie Pond, we do want to continue the hand pulling of water chestnut, which has been pretty effective there so far. We may want to consider doing a sonar treatment in Charlie Pond. We had that permit for all the ponds except for Charlie, because when we got the permit originally, there was no fan work there. Unfortunately, we now have it, and it's spreading quickly. So this may be a pond where we want to add that into the permit. If not, we would proceed at least with the dicot reward treatment next year, I think, just to keep the variable-leaf milfoil at bay. But if we only treat that and we don't get the fan work, we do run the risk of having the fan work continuing to expand while controlling the milfoil, which wouldn't be an ideal situation. It would be nice to take care of both. All right, next slide. So that sums up the report for this year. Anybody have any questions, comments?
So these are just invasive and will grow even in low pollutant conditions, is that correct? This is not just
Correct.
an issue of too many nutrients making it into the water bodies.
Correct. More nutrients in the water bodies over time that accumulate in the sediments is part of the problem, but that's sort of a historical problem that we now have to deal with, in that we have nutrient-rich sediments. And the plants that are rooted, which pretty much all of these are, can make use of those nutrients even if you've stopped all nutrient inputs into the ponds through the water. You would still have those nutrients in the sediments that the plants could have.
I mean, we've been looking at the reservoir for years and years. It started, the initial cores showed a very thick muck layer, and then when it was re-examined, the muck layer had decreased tremendously. So there is a continuing dynamic situation with regard to nutrients. But you're saying even if all the excess nutrients are gone, this will still be an inherent problem.
The plants that have invaded are so aggressive that yes, once they're there and they spread, if you don't actively manage them, they will not necessarily take over the entire water body, because not all the habitat is suitable for them. They'll expand into all the suitable habitats.
And they basically suppress any fisheries and other the clams, not clams, the mussels, yes. It would suppress mussels simply because of the dense growth that would occur.
That alone would not necessarily suppress the mussels. When you have a lot of excess plant growth in the water column, you have lots of photosynthesis during the day, but at nighttime when the sun goes away, all those plants are breathing just like you and I do. So they take up dissolved oxygen from the water column. So if you have really, really thick growths of plants in the water, you can actually use up that oxygen and reduce the oxygen to a level where it may be difficult for other aquatic life to live. But it doesn't necessarily mean that in some cases.
So, I mean, you're painting a picture that this is going to be a chronic monitoring and management issue.
One of the issues that each of these has is that there's an upstream source of these plants. So whenever you have an upstream source, it means unless that upstream source gets fixed, you're going to be getting new fragments coming in or new seeds coming in from upstream infestations. And actually, in the case of water chestnut, wildlife tends to transport those seeds a lot, so you can actually move upstream or you can move to a different watershed. And the more ponds where you have water chestnut actively growing, the more likely it is that you have new infestations starting in other, in further water bodies. So that's definitely one where you want to control the water chestnut population as much as possible.
I guess then the obvious, if naive question is there anything we can do to cut off those seeds and fragments before they get into our water bodies?
The water chestnut seeds, I think, in the water bodies that we've examined so far from the town, there's enough of a population that's setting seeds that that's the main source of the seeds. And so we can cut off that source if we get out there early enough and can harvest all the water chestnut plants, which in the two ponds that we're talking about tonight, Charlie and Norton Reservoir, I think is not that difficult to do. I think, like I said, with an extra day of effort, or maybe an extra 2 days, I think they should be able to nip that in the bud. But if you wait until the seeds drop, then you're adding to the seed bank for future years, every year that happens. So we want to try to exhaust that. With the other plants, yeah, the fragments, there are fragment barriers that could be installed, but there's something that has to be maintained a lot. And with the infestations that are upstream, you wouldn't really be able to keep all the fragments from getting into the pond. So, plus the plants that are growing in the pond fragment and create new beds all the time too if they're not controlled within the pond.
The porticella, the new herbicide, any idea where that has been used before?
I haven't worked on a project where it's been used. I think, so this was the first year where it was fully approved for use in Massachusetts. It's been used in other states a lot. But in Massachusetts, it just started this year. I think there were just a handful of treatments, and I don't know exactly the response so far. But we can definitely look into that, and if we end up going on that road, we'll bring you guys examples when we come in for the interview.
So a regional approach to some of these may be helpful.
It definitely would be helpful. Yeah.
I guess that's something we can discuss as a commission.
I had a question about Winnicott. So what's interesting to me is the pre versus the post. It accumulated around the perimeter. What's the reason for that you see? Is it because it's shallower, or?
I think, yeah, it's shallower, so that's where the beds are starting up again first. And actually, it wasn't in the shallowest areas, it's sort of in the mid-depth range of a few feet down in the sort of the wave zone. I think there were plants, but they were small and they weren't really taking over. You had to go down a few feet to actually see the beds that were starting to come up with dense growth.
And then you mentioned, it's obvious looking at the reservoir that everything accumulated downstream. So the pre-treatment doesn't show much downstream, and then you have this accumulation.
Oh, and those coves to the southwest, those are actually upstream.
Upstream, yeah, okay. So what's the reason behind that?
I don't know the exact reason. Those are shallower coves, and there's less wave action again. So I think that's just where it's starting to, the regrowth is starting to show up the most right now. It's most visible.
Okay.
But I would expect that to expand in the main body of the reservoir.
Okay.
Nothing's done.
No, it's just interesting because it didn't show up, as prevalent in the pre-treatment, but yeah.
Right. Well, that pre-treatment was from 2018, so there had actually been, that was the 2018 pre-treatment map, which is actually post the 2017 big solar treatment.
Okay.
So that was
So
the
if we
year
went before
after
that, okay.
That was the year after the big treatment.
Okay.
And since then, we've kind of just been doing spot treatments as necessary.
Okay.
Keep things in check, with the hope that we'd be able to sort of keep those beds to a minimum, but we've seen more expansion since, unfortunately.
Any other questions from the commission? Any questions or comments from the audience?
How long are the seeds viable from the water chestnut?
I'm sorry, sir, could you state your name?
Oh, my name is Tom Broder. I work at the golf course. I was just curious how long the water chestnut was viable?
Several years at least, yeah. So that's the trouble with water chestnut. Once you start, you have to continue with the effort every year. and prevent the new seeds from dropping because there's still a seepage in the sediments that needs to be exhausted. So it's, anytime you're managing water chestnut, it's a 5 to 10 year program at the least just to get rid of what you have right now, and then you've got to keep after it. And that, essentially, in perpetuity.
Any other comments?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
So we will move on to DET number 1093, notice of intent, Hamed Pishdadian, 158 East Main Street, for a proposed project to repair a septic system within 100 feet of bordering vegetated wetland.
I'll begin with the legal notice for Wetlands Public Hearing, Norton, Mass. In accordance with the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. The Norton Conservation Commission will hold a notice of intent hearing for Hamid Pishdadian of 158 East Main Street, Norton, Mass. The proposed project is to repair septic system within 100 foot of a bordering vegetated wetland. And there is...
I have, but we can...
Okay, that's been paid.
For the record, Michael Trowbridge, Hudson Trowbridge Associates, I represent 158 East Main Street. What we're proposing to do is to repair the existing septic system, which is located in the front yard. It's a existing developed area already, it's a grassed-in area. There's a pocket of wetlands to the south of the property, and then across the street on the opposite side of East Main Street. So what we've done, if you look at the yellow, we've shown a silt sock, which actually kind of includes an area where we can do some stockpiling as well. I'm not concerned really about anything running out to East Main Street because it's a little bit lower than East Main Street itself. We kind of have limited as far as where we can put the system due to the two wetlands, the driveway, and the existing pool. The existing grade that is presently there today will substantially be the same as once they put the septic system on. That's pretty much it.
Any questions, comments from the board? I guess it's not clear on the plan that had been submitted what is happening with the retaining wall. Is there there's a need to control sediment leaving the driveway with the wetlands, as you mentioned, on both sides of the road. Otherwise, septic replacement is a minor project.
The existing wall in here, they'll be retaining. It's only about this high. They'll be retaining whatever they can of it. This one section that will probably be removed. He said it's probably about 3/4 of a foot tall.
So you're going to stop the sediment control at the top of the wall and start again at the bottom?
Yeah. And I'm actually going to have it staked right into the actual paved driveway too, so it doesn't run down the driveway.
Are you gonna put a detail on for the sediment control on the plan, or unless I don't see it here? It might just be missing. Oh, it's right here? Oh, yeah.
I've kept it as tight as I actually could as far as the silt socks. And the wetland line that we used was the line that was just used when they did the work along 123. The flags are actually still hanging.
So are they gonna be operating from the driveway itself?
Yes.
Okay, so you...
Yeah, there's plenty of room in the driveway here.
So your silt sock line might want to, I'm just surprised it's in the driveway. Would you want to line the area between the lawn and the driveway? I mean, they're going to have to remove it every time they go in, if they're going to access it from the driveway.
Yeah, I mean, in here, they'll have to pull it back when they come in and out.
Right.
I was just afraid.
Wouldn't put it at the limit between, on the ground itself, on the grass?
They're gonna be doing a 5-foot over dig, so they're actually going into the pavement slightly,
Okay, so it's gonna be in the way. Okay, I got it.
Any other questions from the commission? Comments? The audience, any
Yeah,
questions, comments?
I have a concern. I'm Carol Smith, 161 East Main Street, Norton. I live across the street. Next month, I'll have lived there 50 years. I lived there for 7 years before these two houses across the street were built. I had no water. I didn't own a pump. And now a river flows through my property. Everybody can see the water on the road there and on my property and in my cellar. So I'm not trying to be difficult or not have you do the project or anything like that. I'm just concerned because when these houses were built, I had no water for 7 years. I don't know whether they were built in 77 or 78. I didn't even own a pump, but now it's the water is terrible and everybody knows it in that area. So it's just a concern. I'm not saying I don't want this man to fix the septic system or anything like that. I'm not trying to be difficult, but there is a lot of water problems in that area. So that's the only reason I came tonight, not to make trouble.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
I mean, I sympathize with you, but I mean, I don't know what started the problem, and this house has been there probably 40 years. Anything that we're doing, we're not creating any impervious, we're keeping the grade pretty much.
Yeah.
Whatever's the grade in the front yard now is gonna stay the same, we're not doing a mounted system.
Well, I know they're fixing 123 and they're gonna put a sidewalk in front of a house and they claim they're gonna fix the water problems and the drainage in that area.
Well, that might, because there's no sidewalk on that side,
Yeah.
and no curbing, so I
Right.
mean, that might channel it and help, I don't know. I just know what we're doing won't hurt you.
And I would say that has come before us. The timing is gonna be unclear. I think the timing is within 3 years. But yes, there has been discussion of some of the details of water problems in that area. And hopefully it will be improved.
I hope so.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just wanted to voice my concern for this. That's all.
Thank you. So I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing on DET 1093.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Kadish?
I move that we close the hearing on 1093.
Mr. Kadish moves.
Second.
And Mr. Doyle as well. The 1093 is closed.
I'm sorry, is that a,
It's
Should
a
it be a-
determination.
oh, it's only determination, it's not a notice of intent?
Yeah,
Yep.
technically, we
Okay.
have to hold up.
Oh, and
All those in favor?
all those in favor of the, thank you, a -3.
No,
Well, to
just
close.
I take the vote, yes. All those in favor of closing 1093?
Aye.
Motion passes.
And Mr. Chairman, being back in our regular meeting, I move that the project be a negative determination, assuming it's built according to plan.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion, the -3 determination, assuming it goes according to plan, pass, how many on the, sorry, how many, what's the language?
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to, for a -3 determination passes, that's good. Let me do a negative. Thank you.
Don't worry, we won't let you fall into the hole.
I'm already clawing my way out.
That's okay.
So we move on to a notice of intent for file number 250-1052, Scott and Joan Stormo, South Worcester Street, for a proposed project to construct 2 triplex units and 5 six-family units with an associated roadway and 2 infiltration basins within 100 feet of bordering vegetated wetland.
Begin with the legal notice. In accordance with the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, as amended, The Norton Conservation Commission will hold a notice of intent hearing for Scott and Joan Stormo for South Worcester Street, Norton, Mass. The proposed project consists of the construction of 2 triplex units and 5 six-family units with an associated roadway and 2 infiltration basins within 100 foot of bordering vegetated wetlands. We have a bill that looks like it's been paid, is that correct? We have a check there?
Yep.
And would you just mind stating your names for the...
My name is Brian Dunn. I'm a principal with NBL Land Development and Permitting with offices at 770 Broadway in Rainham, Massachusetts.
Tracy Gillard, civil engineer, NBL Land Development.
So we're here on behalf of Scott and Joan Stormo for proposed development on this property. You may remember the site a few years ago was the site of a 40B type of a development for approximately 60 homes on this property. And we have been hired by Joan and Scott to come back in front of you to propose a different project on this property. As you know, we were in front of you before in regards to approving the wetland line and the resource areas associated with the site a few months ago. And we issued an ORAD for the existing conditions in the resource areas that are associated with the site. And Tracy's going to go over the design that we came up with, which is really reducing the number of units from 60 to 37, making it more of a buffer zone project, not using all of the land towards the back of the Wading River, and you'll see that in the presentation from Tracy.
Consists of keeping the existing single family on South Worcester Street. We have 2 triplex units and then sort of circular roadway with 5 more 6-unit buildings. We've sort of designed this to keep all of our work outside of the 200-foot riverfront area completely. And we're draining this site to one of 2 vegetated infiltration basins. They're going to have water quality units for pretreatment. And they're both designed to handle the 100-year storm and infiltrate it on site with overflow spillways upstream of the bordering vegetated wetlands here. 24-foot wide concrete, big concrete roadway, 5-foot concrete sidewalks. Fire department has access and adequate movement around, into, and out of the site. Oh, yes. And the site's going to be serviced by a combined septic system or a shared septic system. So that's going to be centered here. Each of the units is going to have its own individual 1,500-gallon septic tank and a pump that'll pump it up to a combined septic tank, pump chamber, and then the community field. All works outside of the 200-foot riverfront, no work within the FEMA flood zone. And we have grading for the 2 basins up to about 25 feet from the wetlands, but not within the 25 no disturbance zone.
And not that this is really something the Conservation Commission is going to vote on or anything, but this we will be in front of the planning board tomorrow night under Article 19. So this will have an affordable unit component to it under the town's bylaw. So this is not a 40B project, but a affordable type of units that are associated with the number of units that we have. So we've got proposed 37 units. 4 of those units will be affordable. We're setting it up for a local preference for residents of the town for those 4 units that are associated with the project. And we're under that Article 19, we can have multi-family on a single lot, and that's what we have here.
Okay, you have a question? I can't tell at this distance, but you say it's outside the floodplain. Where does the floodplain come up to?
Flood zone right here. It's within the 200 foot.
Okay, so nothing gets close to even the detention basin area? So-
No.
Because in our prior discussions of this, I think the plans were much more aggressive that got well within the
Yeah,
flood.
there's a pinch point here where the two wetlands almost touch, and I believe before the roadway came right in between them. And this is within the 200 foot road fronting and flood zone.
And that was, I think, one of the main concerns is the weather patterns are not as predictable, it seems, as they used to be, and I think trying to put, or placing people's residences at risk in that area would be difficult to accept.
Right, so we listened to your concern, we listened to Jennifer's concern, and we had several meetings with Paul in the planning board office to talk about this, and as we realized we could still get, a good sized development via buffer zone project instead of going so close to the wetlands and out towards Wading River, scaled it back, and we were still able to get, a fair amount of units.
What is that 100-year flood zone on the site? What's the elevation? Well, it looks like it's below that, though. It looks like you have it below mean annual.
Yeah, it's elevation 92.
Okay, you might want to adjust that on the plans because right now it's showed as 91.5. It's not following a contour, which I think it should be if it's an AE. Right?
Oh, it does. Actually, it does follow, 90, it's close to 92, but then it merges back onto 92 and comes off of 92. So, because if you look at the elevation from here to here, it's going to fluctuate just a little bit. It's not going to be the same elevation through the entire site, so it's going to fluctuate just
Has
a little bit.
FEMA mapped it as 92 on the project site?
Let's see what we have for.
I mean, it shouldn't fluctuate if it's along the river unless there's a regulatory floodway or something that's changing that elevation. It should be fairly consistent through the site, so you might want to take a peek at that, and then if it's indeed at 92, you should be following the 92 contour on this plan.
Right, because that resource area was already approved as part of the,
Based upon firm map numbers, and it gave the numbers including the town numbers. Both having effective date of July 16, 2015, limits of zone AE on said lot were established using base flood elevations for the Wading River as shown in the current effective flood insurance study for Bristol County, beginning at 93.1 at the westerly limit and drops to 91.5 at the easterly limit.
Okay, so you have it at 90.
That's exactly
That
what
was
we,
the note.
Okay, so you have it at 91.5 at the easterly limit. I just haven't seen the westerly limit, but.
that's on page, well, actually, you see that on sheet 3, 3.0 and 3.1 and 3.4. You can see how it changes from east to west. Sorry about that.
Okay, should I just keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you go over the, how you're meeting the lid requirements under the stormwater management standards?
Low impact requirements.
Low impact development.
So, the low impact, we're not going for any credits, we're trying to minimize disturbance as much as possible from previous development. And we're using BMPs consisting of, they're structural BMPs, but deep dump catch basins, water quality units.
Well, non-structural lid components.
Vegetated infiltration basins.
So you're not doing any rain gardens or vegetated swales or anything to meet the lid? Okay. So that's something we'll want to bring to Jesse's attention?
Right, there would be a an LID statement, I think, in your, or there should be, in the stormwater report.
Okay.
And then provisions for creating that basin. I think you said that the grading at that basin was at the 25-foot no disturb.
Yeah, this basin, the grading slopes just outside the 25-foot no disturbance. The other basin is mostly at 500.
Yeah, it's about 10 feet away from the 25.
The toe of the slope?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I assume it may be constructed from that side, so if you're giving yourself a wide enough work zone there?
Yeah.
We had,
Well, that one's way, that's 100.
right, over here.
So over here, she's asking, it's about 10 feet from the limit of work to the 25-foot at its closest point.
Okay, so you have your limit of work to accommodate that grading?
So
Yes.
that's an excavator can get around.
Okay. The question I had was about snow plowing, removal, storage areas, if you've accommodated those.
We have plenty of room on top of this septic field area here. This is all open space.
Right, but it's not going to be just plowed to one location. Typically, you'll have it at the end of a straightaway or the end of a street. They're not going to plow it around a corner to one location. So you'll want to make provisions for snow plowing, snow storage where it makes sense. And then also for any provisions for dog or pet waste.
We're adding that, I mentioned that.
Okay.
That's going to go into the layout.
And do you know this material actually it's not a stockpile. Looks like it's about a 24-foot high berm on the east side. Do you know if that was remnants of something that was done on the site?
Yeah,
It's actually trees growing there and everything.
We question the survey,
Yeah.
because normally when you see a point like this, you think it's a blown shot, but it's really not. There's actually a pile of dirt that's overgrown in that area. So I don't know why or how or when it was done. It could have been done as part of the dirt gravel paths that go through here
Yeah.
many, many years ago.
And are you going to, how many units are in here total? You said 30?
37.
37. So, we've had issues in the past with developments like this where people start to create their own paths down to the river and they actually end up cutting out, sections and clearing brush. So have you ever made any provisions for perhaps maybe dedicated access?
There is, we haven't made any dedicated access. As we talked about, an existing pathway, when we get to the existing conditions plan, it kind of shows that. So here's that mound of dirt that you were talking about.
Yep.
In this area here. And then you can see what the dashed lines are here. This is an existing pathway that's through the site already. In our development, I think one of the roads ends up close to where one of these pathways are. We were talking about that in the office today, preparing for the meeting. So you can see where the roadway is here, or driveway if you want to call it, coming around. It intersects the existing path. So there would be access down through this dirt path to get an area of walkway to the buffer zone and waiting room. Or it's already there.
So that path, I can't follow it to the west. That goes all the way to the river?
It's very, very close to the flood zone X. So if you look on sheet C4, if I may.
Yep.
Right here, so that's where it ends.
Okay.
So right here
Doesn't go down to the river proper?
It doesn't go down all the way to the river, but this is all vegetated around it with that existing dirt path going through the property. So there is currently access to, the flood zone, very close to the river.
Right.
You can make it to the bank from the existing cart paths. They're overgrown though.
Okay. So we're going to probably have to limit that somehow, those number of clearings, because if you don't provide it, they will make paths to the river.
All right, so we can, if the commission would like, from the chair,
It should be in a location that makes sense, that's already partially cleared, that they're using today.
what I was gonna say exactly, is just utilize that as to maintain that existing pathway so that no new pathways are created, since it's already there. put that in the O&M if that's appropriate.
Any other questions from the commission?
Well, you had a list of comments from me. Maybe you just want to touch on those quickly, so.
Excuse me, I can't hear because of that music, whatever that is. Is it anyways?
Yeah, Dan.
No, it's horrible. We have it all the time, and part of the reason why we're like, can we get a new town hall so we can actually hear and sit and have a nice meeting? But if there's someone down there, then they'll try to turn it down, but there might not be anybody there.
What is it from?
There was some meeting down there at 7.
Cable station set up, I don't, sometimes it just runs. There's nobody there. Okay, so, yeah.
I have it over there, but some of the things that Jennifer brought up were making provisions for pet waste, so we were going to add to the O&M to have pet waste stations with bags, disposal areas, and provisions that gets maintained regularly. She brought up the stormwater management permit, which we will be applying for, and we'll submit any drafts with it. We don't know who the contractor's going to be or what the construction schedule is, so we can definitely prepare a draft with certain information to be determined. We're going to just submit that. We're still waiting for the peer review comments. That way we can address everything together and do something that.
Town stormwater bylaw? Was that included in your notice of intent?
Applying for the stormwater application?
Say it again?
Did you mean to apply for the stormwater application?
Correct, and then to obviously make sure it's in compliance with the stormwater bylaw. Okay. Second, the access drive for the 2 basins?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, comment about that, just to make sure you can drive all the way around it.
So, the toe of the slope is pretty much at grade there, so we're gonna just slide this slip up solely over here, but then they can just get right back up and around instead of trying to make that a drivable path. And same thing here, you're flush with grade here, so we'll just move the tree clearing to go around that and access the whole thing. It's kind of a steep and small area here to try to get another drivable. Or we can even connect the two like that.
Okay, so there'll be a plan revision?
Yes.
Okay.
And then based on Mr. Cheshire comments, there'll be some revisions as well. Do you anticipate when we will have his review letter?
I do not know. I can check with him. I mean, you did a really nice job clustering the development so it wasn't in all of those multiple resource areas, so that was nice to see. It's not being proposed as a clustered development per se, but typically with a cluster development there's a conservation restriction, and we had asked if that was something that your clients would consider.
We can, I'll talk to Joan and Scott.
Okay.
Today and tomorrow. Regards to conservation restriction.
Okay.
Was there a certain area that you were looking for that conservation restriction to happen on?
Typically it's whatever's left, whatever you're considering open space within the resource areas. And
You can talk to Joan
Yep.
and Scott
Yep.
about that and come up with something.
Okay. Yeah, that's basically it for my comments for now.
Anyone else on the commission? Anyone in the audience have any comments or questions?
Yeah.
And would you please state your name and address?
Yes, my name is Nancy Poria, and I live at 101 South Worcester Street. And I have, this is 158, correct? I mean, 108. That's the property. So, as you said, we came before this board 20 years ago, and this was refused. And I'm just wondering I can see what changed, you're making it much smaller, you're bringing it forward more from the river. But I had some of the concerns that you also expressed about, yeah, the pathways to the river and stuff with these, I mean, like we had species out there that we were concerned with 20 years ago. Jennifer, the ferry shrimp or the mussels, and like those are still being protected?
There are vernal pools and potential vernal pools on the property, and they're staying as far away as they possibly can from all of those, protecting around the vernal pools as well.
Okay, because they have to, right? I mean,
Well,
we already-
we could have came in with a development
Yeah.
that the chairman was talking about, but we listened to some of the concerns
Yeah.
of Conservation Commission, Jennifer, and planning, and scaled everything back, but still got the same, not really the same amount of units, actually half of the units, but we still have a development.
but what is a triplex?
It's 3 units, it's a 3-unit building.
Three, mean going up or going across?
Instead of the
1, 2,
duplex,
3.
yeah.
Instead of 2 units, 3 units.
Okay.
Maybe if you pointed them out on the plan, that might look good
Yeah,
for the
I
audience.
don't do very well reading, but,
So the three units are, this is a single family, so they're behind that. So that way, and then the larger buildings are off to the back of the site, the 60 units.
okay,
So
so
one, two,
is that,
three.
where is the driveway from South Worcester Street? Is that White House there gonna be?
Existing house is staying.
The existing house is staying?
Yep.
So, and what about the trees and the stone wall in back of the Burgess's property, and the trees that run along the side?
So this is the existing tree line here.
Does that
Where it's-
stay?
Yeah, the stone wall here is not getting touched at all.
And what about the tree line there?
So the tree line goes right about at the property line now. It's just gonna go back at that same.
Will the trees stay there?
Yes, behind their lot.
Okay,
this
so
is
that's
all
one of our
trees still.
concerns, is that we have,
It will still be wood behind that.
it will still be wooded.
Yeah.
Okay,
So where it's getting cleared is straight back from the existing house.
okay. And,
Maybe you can give
So-
them an idea of how, the width of that buffer that you'll maintain on the rear, to the rear of those lots? That's at the closest point.
That's the closest
At the
point.
closest point, it's about 90 feet.
And that's only one point, then it gets wider, so.
And that's the basin.
I don't, what did you just say? I'm sorry? Gets wider?
Oh, so you'll have, so at the closest point, you'll have 90 feet.
Of trees.
Of
Of
trees.
trees,
From the
okay.
And then it gets
property
wider
line to
from
the end
there.
of the clearing, yeah.
Okay, so the neighbors now will have minimal, we won't see, I mean, where will we see this
You'll
from?
see it behind the existing house, definitely.
Okay, is
But
it,
straight back from their house now, that's gonna remain wooded.
okay. And I don't know, I guess nobody cares about the deer, right? Like, what about that type of wildlife that lives out there? That's
That goes along with what, if I may.
progress? I don't know,
That
because
goes
we have a
along
lot
with
of
what
deer over there.
Jennifer was asking about a conservation restriction, to make sure no other future development would happen in the back area of the lot, so there's still habitat for the animals.
Well, it can't be, because this commission has already turned that down 20 years ago, so they couldn't, it's already been refused back there, right? So that wouldn't have been an issue anyway.
Okay, through the chair, Mr. Chairman, the project, I'm sorry.
That's
I'm
all
sorry,
right.
I'm confused.
That's quite all right.
All the shuffling in the chairs. Mr. Chairman, all right, so first off, the project wasn't refused or denied, it was approved. It was appealed, and then it didn't go anywhere. So it got approvals from Conservation and Planning Board, the zoning board, for a 40B, for many, many more units than what we're asking for right now. Right now, we've scaled things back, we've listened to the boards, we've listened to the abutters, we still have a project, we're gonna go back to the owners on a conservation restriction to tie everything up in the back. All the vernal pool areas stay intact, we're not working near them. This is a buffer zone project, we're not altering any resource areas, not even a area of the vernal pool are we altering. So I think this is a much better project than what was approved earlier, because before it was 60 units, 60 houses, what was it, 28 single family?
It was 38 single family and 11.
38 single family and 11 duplex units were proposed before. Now, we've just got 37 units, including the existing house, in a buffer zone project, more clustered type of a development. Goes along with the Article 19 of the zoning board regulations here in town. I think this is a good thing.
Okay, so that's understood. You know, it did go way back. Yeah, you cut it way down, but we still have concerns in the neighborhood. Like we were saying about the wetlands and some of the species that are out there. Like, how do you guarantee that the people who live there don't trample those areas or build forts? And I mean, how does that? I mean, there's no guarantees in the future for, I don't know, like.
Well, there isn't, and that's why we're trying to streamline it and make sure that there, you know, we could dedicate a few areas for access so everybody just doesn't start going in and cutting their own.
Right.
That's what we've seen on other projects where the proponent hadn't thought about it, and so people just started, you know, creating their own access down to the river. So I think if we take a more proactive approach and maybe use dedicated locations, then they'll use those.
Yeah, because once we lose you, it's gone in the neighborhood, you know, if we don't talk about these things now and they start happening in 5 or 10 years, we'll have little recourse. So that's why I'm bringing it up.
I think that's why we are proposing a conservation restriction that, you know, it
Yes, I
can be used for
understand that.
passive recreation, but people can't construct forts, as you suggested, or any other activities that significantly disrupt the land.
That's,
And, you know, you have to understand the context in which this process occurs. That there are criteria under the Wetlands Protection Act, which if an applicant meets, we can't really say no. I mean, it's the point of the Wetlands Protection Act is to regulate activity within our jurisdiction, which is within 100 foot of a wetland or 200 foot of a river. And once they do that, once they're in compliance with the rules of the Wetlands Protection Act, we can regulate, but we can't deny. I mean, we could deny, but then the applicant can appeal to the next level up. And again, if it is consistent with the Wetlands Protection Act, then an applicant has the right to do that activity.
yeah, I understand. Thank you for explaining that to me.
So this will be a private development not accepted by the town, correct?
That is correct.
So would we have access, would we provide public access to that CR, the restriction?
We would have to ask permission for that and have it included in the conservation restriction.
We can talk to the owners
Okay.
about that.
As you probably know, if I may speak for the conservation director, she's very vigilant. So, yeah.
Yes, I know she is.
If somebody
She does a good job.
builds a fort somewhere,
She knows.
she might,
As an example.
she's likely, we hope she would know about it.
She'll probably soon have a drone.
It will not have a drone.
There's an idea.
Any other,
No, thank you for letting me speak, and
thank you.
I thank you for asking the questions that you are. I appreciate that.
Any other questions from the audience or the commission? Any comments? Then shall we entertain a motion to continue?
To continue and
File 250-1052.
so the options are for the 16th of December. That may be a little soon for the review by Mr. Chesia. And then the next option is the 13th of January. Do you have a preference?
Well, it doesn't hurt to do it to the 16th,
I'd like
and
to
if
go
it's,
do it to the 16th.
yeah,
and
it's
then
not ready, it's not ready.
Get a review letter out of Mr. Cheshire and then start to talk about it, and then have some back and forth with him
All right.
And then maybe we'll have to continue it again to the January meeting and be done by then.
Well, I will make a motion that we continue to the next meeting, which is 12/16.
Second.
Julia makes a motion to continue 250-1052 to the 16th of December. Lisa seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick reminder to submit all your information 2 weeks prior to the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before I forget, would you pass this to Jen? This is from the gentleman in the prior DET 1093. Someone from the audience, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, we move on to notice of intent 250-1053. Tournament Players Club of Boston, 400 Arnold Palmer Boulevard, for a proposed project to construct a footbridge on pilings and posts within 100 feet of bordering vegetated wetland.
I'll start with the legal notice. In accordance with the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, as amended, the Norton Conservation Commission will hold a notice of intent hearing for the Tournament Players Club of Boston, 400 Arnold Palmer Boulevard, Norton, Mass. The proposed project is to construct a footbridge on pilings, posts within 100 foot of bordering vegetated wetland and 200 foot of a river.
We have the bill.
We have the check.
Thank you.
I guess we're all set. Would you state your name for the...
Stacy Minahan, I'm a professional wetland scientist with Beals and Thomas. We are representing the Tournament Players Club for the notice of intent submitted for a footbridge proposed between holes 8 and 9. So I think you're familiar with the property, but it's at 400 Arnold Palmer Boulevard. It's at 360 acres overall, and this is located in the eastern portion of the overall property. So the proponent is proposing to construct a footbridge between two holes to provide more direct access. The footbridge is proposed across a bordering vegetated wetland and unnamed perennial stream. So this shows the proposed work. This is an existing gravel access path that's used by vehicles as well to access the area. The footbridge will be 150 feet long, 6 feet wide, constructed on piles that are 9-inch posts spaced every 13 feet in order to minimize impacts. There also will be minor grading and wing walls placed at either end of the footbridge to fit it into the overall landscape. And the footbridge itself during construction will be used as the laydown in the equipment access area, so it'll proceed in one direction with the equipment accessing the next segment from the bridge itself and using the area as laydown to avoid additional impacts to the resource areas. The bridge is similar to the 25 or so other footbridges that are present on the overall property. So same approach, same style of bridge that's proposed here. Although the wetland is vegetated, there's herbaceous vine, shrub, tree species there. The proposed path was selected in order to minimize tree clearing. So there are 3 trees that are proposed to be removed as part of the project. The stumps will be left in place to minimize disturbance and provide habitat. And those are depicted on the plan. In terms of resource area impacts, they've been maintained fairly minimal. There's 9 square feet of BDW impact. That's associated with 16 piles and the removal of 2 of the trees. There is 3 square feet of land under water bodies and waterways. That's associated with 4 piles and 1 tree being removed. And then there's 905 square feet of riverfront area impacted from the unnamed perennial stream. That riverfront area impact encompasses the other impacts I went through as well as it overlaps the other resource areas. So I know that was a fairly succinct summary, but I'm happy to answer questions that you may have.
Commission?
So you have comments from DEP, those should be addressed.
Yep, so if I recall correctly, one of the comments related to wetland change mapping. I am of the understanding, although I was not involved personally, but my colleague Sarah Stearns had worked with the club to close out multiple past orders of conditions that had involved wetlands impacts and mitigation.
So how does that line up with the wetland change map?
We can look into specifically and line them up to confirm that they're covered by that. I know DEP identifies the wetland change and doesn't look at whether it was a permitted change or not. They just identify all changes by aerial mapping. And the other comment was whether impacts could be avoided because of the existing path around the wetland. The preference is to install a more direct connection, mainly for pedestrian access, well, solely for pedestrian access here, for a few reasons, to keep people on a designated path through the wetland, and also my understanding is to avoid conflicts with vehicles that may use this path as well. So the club does host very high-level events, and this is a preferred access point for pedestrians between these two locations. The impacts have been minimized to the maximum extent practicable through the use of the pile-supported footbridge, similar to what the club has put in place elsewhere on the course.
Are people walking through the wetland now?
I'd have to coordinate with the club. I'm not familiar myself.
No. Yeah, there'd be no way really to, it's not very practical.
Yeah, I mean, they have access all the way around the wetland.
Mr. Doyle?
Are there a lot of walkers, or is it mostly golf carts that golfers use at TPC?
Originally it was all golf carts, and over the years it's gravitated to in excess of 40% walking.
Really?
Yeah. So
Because there's some long walks in between holes.
there are, yeah, and people. It's a fairly elevation changes are minimal. So it's a convenient place to walk. So it's increased each year, year over year since the very beginning.
So has Beals and Thomas been involved with the overall wetland fill and alterations on the site for a while, or did you just pick up the file? Because I'm a little concerned and surprised that we already maxed out at 1.69 acres of alteration on the site.
Yeah, so we were not involved in the original projects that resulted in those impacts, but my colleague Sarah Stearns had worked, I think, fairly extensively with the commission in closing out some of those open orders of conditions that had permitted those impacts. There were multiple, my understanding, multiple orders of conditions that had various impacts and mitigation.
Right.
We don't consider that the site has maxed out the wetlands impacts. The past projects and this project, which I failed to mention, were proposed as limited projects. Furthermore, their impacts were fully mitigated, and the end result of that analysis that was done as part of closing out those orders of conditions was that there was a significant excess of wetland created over what was required. So from our perspective, the Wetlands Protection Act, each project, if you impact and you're required to replicate, once you replicate, then you've replicated it, you have the wetland, and the next project to use it.
Right, but I think those other boardwalks were in places where they couldn't already get to it. There's multiple access points,
Right.
which are not very far.
I mean, I look at the fact that you may have to alter a wetland based on a hardship. This doesn't seem like a hardship. This seems like part of a wish list so people don't have to walk so far. So, you know, I'm struggling with where does it end? Do you come back to us in a few months and want boardwalks all over the place, or? So I think we have to look at this very carefully, and whether this is an acceptable impact for the sake of convenience. That's my opinion.
Would a site visit?
No, I don't think so. But it's out of necessity and not need or hardship. And typically, you look at all the other alternatives before you impact a wetland. And in fact, there are alternatives because there's a route on both sides of it to get to the same location. So it's creating yet a third route.
If I could just comment, I mean, there are conservation areas where putting a boardwalk through it is considered an enhancement of the public's ability to
Enjoy it.
the area. So I'm kind of conflicted to say, because, I haven't seen the site to know if part of the experience of being out there is to examine the wetlands, so I don't have such a negative thought. And I think the intention of the section that you're commenting, that we need to have some justification of doing that, really is more for people who put wetland crossings for access that is avoidable. And, yes, this access is avoidable, but at the same time, is it against the intent of the law?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
Against the intent of the law.
Oh, okay.
You could certainly schedule a site inspection and go look at it.
It's not often, is it, that we have the DEP weighing in at this point in the application, is it?
You never get comments from DEP.
But I think, the question is what you said sufficient? Namely, the DEP examines the aerial changes without being able to correlate, are they permitted and compensated for?
And that we can look into.
Yeah.
We can look at the change mapping units that they reference and correlate it to, was it in association with a permit that we're aware of?
Yeah, there are two different comments, though. There's one about the wetlands change, and there's one that says, try to read it for the record.
Yeah, we have the copy here, do you need it?
Do we have the copy?
Yeah, it's right here. Julie, can you pass that over? Lisa?
Which one is it?
The second one?
Yeah, it's at the bottom.
Oh, yeah, so it says, please see 310 CMR 10.55, can impacts be avoided? There appears to be an existing path connecting the two greens. That's the comment.
Any other,
So I guess what I would say is the proponent's preference is obviously to install the footbridge, which is why we proposed it. Obviously, as you've noted, there is the alternative of going around, and we tried to put forth in the notice of intent processing that it would help, but the reasons for why that footbridge is being requested. I would just like to add, I do actually fairly frequently see DEP comments. I have heard recently from them at the AMWS meeting. They typically review and they will provide comment. Their review is fairly quick. They're not spending hours delving in, they're short-staffed. But, including in Norton, we've had similar comments from DEP in the past as well.
Yeah, Southeast region is typically silent compared to other regions. Absolutely. So, anyway.
Okay, so we're still looking at avoid, minimize, mitigate, confirming the wetland change maps, and whether the commission wants to do a site visit.
so shall we entertain a motion to continue? Fine. Go ahead.
Is the site visit something that is scheduled tonight or separately?
We could, yes.
If it helps, snow or no snow, we can make sure there's access at any time. We're close enough to the road, we can snow blow the cart path, we do often anyway, and get you out there, no problem. So pretty flexible on time.
So shall we schedule a site visit?
Sure.
Any thoughts?
So weekday or weekend? Weekends are possible, or?
Possible, sure.
This Saturday?
I'm available this Saturday, part of the time.
Is this Saturday good for everyone?
I'm not sure I might be available.
No.
In the afternoon, after 12.
The afternoon after 12.
So I can say that we will not be able to be present on Saturday, not that we necessarily
Okay.
need to be, but.
I'll make myself available. Yeah, I mean, if it's just a matter of showing you it's flagged and if I can make sure there's easy access and.
And I think it would give us a good view as to the dimensions, which is very difficult to judge.
There's a very, as far as the location and the bridge itself.
What's the length of the footpath being considered?
150.
About 150 feet and it's 6 feet wide. I did bring,
There's a 6-foot bridge right, it's actually going to eventually connect to a 6-foot bridge if it's installed. So in 2005, perhaps, 4 or 5, we put
So this is a
4
demonstration
for similar reasons.
The
so
size.
those are existing bridges that are on the property now that are similar
Correct.
in nature.
That's right, that's exactly. Those were put in and post the original project because we learned that walking wasn't working out as well as it could have. And so this is just another sort of link in the chain, if you will, to make that easier access.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I guess if we were talking about 150 feet, the loop around is not necessarily that much further, but we'll have to look at it.
so Julian, are you available any afternoons other than Saturday?
Yeah, on the, well, the 11th I have another thing, but later in the afternoon, on the 11th, on the 12th, and then the next week.
Do you maybe want to schedule it at the end of the meeting and then we'll just email you instead of
Yeah. if you
taking the
guys-
meeting
okay.
time to
So
go
I'm
back and forth?
Saturday. If you say Saturday around noon or there, I can do that. And if you say during the week,
Yeah, maybe,
normal business hours are 7 to 4.
maybe we'll try to coordinate by email and
We'll schedule it later.
Maybe if you guys can come up with a couple of options,
Yeah.
that would be great. And then we can. You
Okay.
good?
Yeah, thanks.
I will then entertain, we need to have a motion to continue.
And our
Entertain a
options-
motion to continue.
Our options for continuing are the next meeting, which is the 16th, or the following meeting, which is the 13th of January. Do you have a preference? Shoot for the 16th?
Prefer the 16th.
All right, so I move we continue this hearing for file number 250-1053 to the 16th of December.
Before I accept that, was there anyone, did I miss the audience? Is there anyone in the audience who had any comments, questions? Glad of that. Motion to continue made by Mr. Kadish, seconded by Mr. O'Reilly. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We will continue 250-1053 to the December 16th meeting. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Just a reminder to submit all your information a week prior to the meeting.
Yes.
Okay, so we continue with notice of intent 250 for file 250-1051. George and Beverly, please correct me. Suiden.
Right.
Did I get it right?
He's an English major, don't let him.
153 Bay Road, continued from the November 18th, 2019 meeting. The proposed project is to demolish existing home and clear selective trees to construct a new single-family home with new septic system within 100 feet of bordering vegetated wetland.
Ray Francisco with RLF Engineering, representing George and Beverly, the applicants. Would you like to see the plans again?
Agreed, I
Yes.
need to refresh my mind.
Sure thing.
about
Yep.
details.
I'm following it. Would you like one? Sure.
Thanks.
As discussed at the last hearing, is to construct a single-family home here, septic system to the north, and then a future pool and patio. All the soil disturbance and all the construction work is outside the 100-foot buffer zone. However, there is some proposed limited clearing of dead trees and maintenance of grass and shrub within the 100-foot buffer zone. That's what we're here to discuss.
Since the last meeting, you got the rare species letter, correct?
Yes, we actually had it just before that meeting.
Oh, you had it before
Yeah,
the meeting.
and we have hired Lucas Environmental to prepare the trail plan, and once that's approved, we'll have them do the training and the clearing.
And we received the revised SWIP and the revised operation and maintenance plan. Had some comments today. I know you sent me something back, but didn't get to it yet. That was today. That was today.
Right.
But I believe that was all we were waiting for. And I'm sure whatever last minute changes can be worked out in the order if we need to.
So we're looking at a motion to close.
Correct.
Any questions from the audience or the commission?
I just had a quick question about the start date of construction. Is it going to be this winter?
Yeah, no, it'll be after the first of the year, probably put it in this whip.
All right, Jeff, was it February? I think it was February.
February in there as
Okay.
an aggressive date. I'm not sure if it'll actually.
Okay. So we probably don't need provisions for temporary stabilization. They'll probably finish up during the summer, late summer.
I think it's a boilerplate condition anyway.
Okay.
So I'll entertain motion to continue 250-105.
Actually, I think we're closing.
By which I mean I'm entertaining a motion to close 250
So moved.
Mr. Kadesh makes a motion, Mr. O'Reilly seconds. All those in favor? Aye. Motion is closed. We move on to notice of intent for file 2501037, Next Grid Redwood LLC, 54 Plain Street, continued from a number of dates for proposed plans to install a ground-mounted solar array driveway, stormwater, utilities within 100 feet of wetland in the Canoe River area of critical environmental concern.
Good evening. My name is Christopher King with Atlantic Design Engineers. On behalf of Next Grid, I'm here for the 54 Plain Street solar project. At the last hearing, Mr. Chesnut was here. Hopefully spoke favorably about the project and where we've come in as far as resolving the outstanding issues. At the last hearing, we did not have a set of conditions, if you will, for the commission to vote on. And so I'm hoping that Jennifer has had an opportunity to speak with John. Hopefully everything is as we had discussed at the last hearing. And with just some minor detail needing to be addressed and then some additional information to be provided prior to the start of construction. I'm hoping the information that was revised and provided to the commission will put you in a position to render a decision this evening.
Do we still have the question of how wildlife will get across the site, or has that been answered, Jen, to your satisfaction?
On the north side, I think we're good. Then it's just the western boundary. So I don't know if you can see from there, Chris, but the why does the fence sort of jog back and forth like that? Is there a reason for that? The chain link fence? Instead of just coming straight across and
I think it was to
leaving that alone?
provide just an area for snow storage. I think that was one of the items on the, the BMP plan was to find a location for snow storage.
Okay.
But again, the owner-operator is committed in snow obviously impacting the efficiency of the array. So, that was an area where you wanted to see something else in there. I believe I know it's been a while, but I know that when we were initially talking, we had pulled the array back from the plan north and provided the corridor adjacent to the Perry property.
Okay. Concrete washout detail. Just needed the poly liner. It's one of our standard conditions, but it's helpful if the detail shows that for the contractor to bid on the project.
Sure. Thought that had made it onto the detail sheet.
Yeah, I mean, if it is, just point it out for me if you would.
No, that's a silk fence. Where is it, Jennifer?
Second page over here in the corner.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
Excuse me, it's not on the detail sheet.
Okay.
And one of the, I believe,
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the conditions was a SWIP to be finalized. And, with that, we have additional detail in that, so if you're amenable to it, we can certainly, make a condition of approval that any concrete washout area has the poly barrier and that detail, could be provided as part of the SWIP to memorialize it as well.
And then the top sheet was a little confusing, so you guys
Yeah.
revised it so that you took all the panels off so we could really
Correct.
see the stormwater detail. So is that a full-size sheet that you'll add to the plan set?
I thought we were gonna try to do is the 8.5 by 11 to append
yeah.
to the O&M plan.
Yep.
If you wanted,
Both is helpful.
okay,
Yeah, or 11 by 17 might be better. But
could I include that as part of the O&M itself?
Definitely, the reduced size would be part of the O&M.
Yep.
It might be helpful if it's part of this plan set, just one
Okay,
copy
so
of the
just like
full-size
just a
sheet, if you
one
would.
sheet, if you will, call it a BM.
Yep,
location
just
plan.
the way you did it in the email that you sent.
Okay.
Is that today, too?
Yeah.
Okay, that would be it for me.
Does the commission have any questions, comments, concerns?
is this the site where am I thinking of the right one, where there was the tree clearing?
Yes.
Okay, was that resolved?
It was stabilized, temporarily stabilized in the meantime.
Did they appear before us?
They did.
Okay,
Yeah.
I missed that meeting. Okay, did they say why? Miscommunication?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are there any questions or comments from the audience? Then I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing for 250-1037.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kadish moves and Ms. Carrozza seconds on the, to close the public hearing for 250-1037. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
You're cranking, Dan. You're on a roll. Good.
Okay.
So I think we're all set with that. We have.
Correct, yeah.
Thank you for coming in.
This was part of it.
I think we have a draft for conditions.
They have a draft that they're gonna look at. I don't know if you're gonna look at that now, or if you just wanna finish off the last 3 hearings.
Yeah, we got a couple of orders to plow through, so we might as well do those at the end, right?
Yeah. So I don't know if you wanna, you're welcome to sit and wait. I mean, it's a public hearing.
A little naive in the process, so we do review them later on, and then
They'll review them at the end of the meeting, and then I'll make whatever changes they need, and the permit will be issued within the 21 days.
oh, okay.
More likely tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
You can join the commission and get really familiar with it.
Can't vote on it that way.
So we will move on to notice of intent for file 250-1040, Michael Trowbridge of Hutchins Trowbridge Associated, 306 to 308 East Main Street, continued from a number of dates for the proposed project to construct an addition to a warehouse, detention basin, and grading within 100 feet of bordering vegetated wetland.
They've requested a continuance to 12/16.
I will entertain a motion to continue.
Second.
Continue.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We will continue to the 16th, file 250-1040. Moving right along, the discussion over we'll have a discussion over the amendment to DEP 250-1018 regarding adding a retaining wall.
When they started construction, the grading was apparently not correct, and they started adding a retaining wall without it being approved by the commission. The retaining wall is close, one of the areas close to the wetland. So they have revised the plan and provided a detail of the block retaining wall. So you just need to decide if that's a big enough change that it requires an amended order of condition.
Oh, where's the wall going, Jennifer?
It's in blue, right down here.
Oh.
Can you all see it? Blue.
So it labels it
Oh, so they built
existing,
it.
but it's
Right,
actually
it was a-
construction.
Violation. It said stop all work until they came in.
So does limit of work have to change
No,
because of it?
no.
So it's in this, what was there before?
It was just grading.
They were just tying off the grades?
Correct.
And they still maintain their sediment controls there?
Correct.
Okay.
So in the blue line is the 25 foot? No,
Yes. No, actually, it looks more than that. It looks like it might be a 50-foot.
okay.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't be adding another condition because it's still within the footprint of what was disturbed. So I would, we just want to receive this for a record. I mean, we're not going to amend the order, correct?
Yes.
So we're just going to accept, all right, I'll make a motion to accept the wall as part of the project since it's within the footprint of disturbance without an amendment or issuing an amended order.
I would second that.
So Lisa makes a motion to accept the amended,
Accept the wall.
Accept the change without a formal amended order.
accept the change without a formal amended order for file
250-1040.
1040. 1018, sorry. All those in favor?
I'll go an aye.
Motion passes. Oh, Mr. Kadish, additional consideration.
No, I was late with my eye.
Oh.
So it became an ellipse.
Moving right along, abbreviated notice of resource area delineation, for file number 250-1030, John Quattrochi, East Hodges Street, continued from multiple dates for proposed plans to verify wetland resource areas.
They did provide the vernal pool survey results that you requested. We do not have the ILSF calculations per the hydrology handbook or the regs just yet. They've requested a continuance to 12/16.
And I so move.
Do I hear a second for the continuation? Julian makes a motion to continue 250-1030 to the December 16th meeting, seconded by Ron. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. We move on to a notice of intent for 250-1032, Albert Faxon of Oak Street. Continued from a number of dates for proposed plans to construct a driveway associated with a new single-family house within 100 feet of wetlands.
All right, good evening.
Good evening. Would you state your name just for the...
Sure thing. Scott Gallagher, consulting, wetland consultant for Faxon, who are the owners and applicants. So this project's been before you for quite some time. I think we're winding down the issues. Since the last meeting, we submitted one last round of submittal dealing with really 3 issues. One is to update the plan that it would be compliant with the Norton stormwater bylaw of treating the first inch of runoff. So what we did on that is we added a recharge trench along the driveway, and then we also added, even though it's outside of the 100 buffer zone, we added Coltec units around the house, but that will be required for the Norton stormwater bylaw anyway. And the calculations that support that are in the document. I've also submitted to you a draft SWIP document dated 11/15/2019 that could be modified or referenced in order of conditions, but it should be fairly boilerplate. And the last item was, there was a discussion at the last meeting when you had your peer reviewer here about deed restrictions versus conservation restrictions, and the pros and cons of the different options there. So basically, everything you see here that's hashed in purple, which is the vast majority of the site, is proposed. It's labeled this plan as conservation restrictions. Basically, what mechanism we're going to use to preserve this land in perpetuity, both the land in the buffer zone and out of the buffer zone. So the downside to an official sort of Massachusetts approved conservation restriction is it has to go through the State House approval, has to have some level of public interest involved in it. It's not a guaranteed approval that you secure that conservation restriction, and since this doesn't abut any other lands of significance for conservation, it's somewhat isolated, so there could be a problem getting that done. One of the other things that we can do, which we do all the time for water quality certificates, is an in perpetuity deed restriction. Some people get concerned that deed restrictions can expire after a period of time, but the DEP, whenever you do a water quality cert for under 5,000 square feet of wetland filling, they'll ask you to do a deed restriction, not a conservation restriction, but you do it in perpetuity. So I took a template of one that we just recently had approved from DEP with the in perpetuity language in it of a deed restriction, inputted the data from this plan, this site, and would propose that if the Conservation Commission of Norton is the holder of the deed restriction with the in perpetuity language, then at least we have the guarantee that the land can be preserved with that non-build condition in perpetuity. So I'll defer to the commission on how they want that handled. If you really want to see the CR kind of go through, then we can attempt that. But I think the deed restriction is a simpler way to accomplish the same objective and is a sort of a steadfast method that DEP uses for all their water quality certs. So those are the 3 items that we submitted on this revised plan. A little bit of the language, non-jurisdictional depressional area, that label was added here, and then labeling these off-site flags here as approximate, and the BBW vertical boundary being the same. So that's all that was added to the plans in terms of nomenclature changes. But that's everything we've done since the last meeting.
I think we do want to see the conservation restriction.
We got a an opinion from town council who said that is not actually in perpetuity, it's only for 30 years. And so she recommended that if the commission wanted the restriction in perpetuity as a way to show that the alteration of the vernal pool would meet the regulatory requirement and the standard, and will condition.
That's fine.
We can condition
me to
that.
keep this, or just look at it?
Yeah, that's yours to revise.
Will do.
Okay. Revise, CR, what was the other thing? No, there was one more thing. Nope, that's not. That was it for us.
Anyone else? Are the qualifications and/or restrictions significant enough that you want to continue, or can we close this? Or
You can
I
close
mean,
it with the
can we make a
condition
motion?
that we get the SWIP, in a,
Prior to start, oh, are they?
well, if you don't have the full draft SWIP before you close the hearing, you usually say within more than 45 days before they plan to start work. This way there's time for back and forth and it can be finalized before they actually do plan to start work. You don't do it often.
So
We could put that.
You
Are
can
they
do that.
planning on starting anytime soon? No.
No, because they've got that significant wetland crossing and the timing of when they can actually do that with vernal pool season. They are going through a vernal pool, and the sequencing of the project. So I don't think they're not proposing to start anytime soon.
Okay.
I will entertain a motion to close with the proviso that everything is done in the order that Jen delineated.
Well, you're going to go over the draft order. You're just going to close the public hearing. That's all.
Close the,
Yep.
make a motion to close the public, entertain, sorry, you know what I mean.
I move we close 2501032 with the conditions.
You're just closing. Just closing.
Okay, sorry.
Close the public hearing. That's it.
All those in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay.
And 250-1032 is closed to
So
the
would you
public.
anticipate them deliberating on that at the next meeting or later this evening?
Later this evening. In fact, we are now at the sign and issue order. We are now signing and issuing orders of conditions / orders of resource area delineation.
I have one other question for you guys. So why are all the nameplates facing the audience versus?
Oh, so the audience can see them.
Yeah.
Also,
Maybe like double-sided ones, because I'm like,
Well, it's our townspeople that care. Care about.
All you do is say, hey, you.
and also this way, there's no evidence on camera. So.
That's true. That's true, Dan. Very good point.
Okay, so you have 3 that we closed, and you need to deliberate and go over the orders. So depends where you want to start.
In order. How about B?
Good.
250-1051.
Hold on. Attachment B is Bay Road.
Yeah.
Letter D on your agenda.
So Jennifer, I had a question on number 4.
Hold on. B.
So,
It could be number 4?
yeah,
Okay.
NESHAP has determined that the project must be conditioned to avoid a take.
Yeah, but under MISA,
Right, but it doesn't really tell the applicant what they need to do. So wouldn't we just refer to 12E? Demonstrate compliance with NESHAP letter regarding the turtle protection plan?
well, 4 is just a finding, it's not a condition.
Oh, it's a finding.
Yep.
Okay, I was getting carried away early on.
No, it's okay.
Okay. 39. Does 39 have to be witnessed? Do we usually have somebody witness that?
We don't unless you require them to pay for somebody to do it. It's usually only for the larger projects that we have that kind of construction monitoring. We haven't had that for a single-family house before.
Okay. And then 41 and 42, you want us to decide between the two, or?
No, you just need to decide how you want the visual barrier to be, right? So they're cutting, they're going, oh, this is the plan right here. Here. Sorry. You guys will share. So in the buffer zone, they want to leave the trees but cut down all of the saplings and the shrubs and have it grass underneath the trees. So you need to decide how you want that visual barrier.
So it's just this east side of the site?
Correct.
So the visual barrier would be along the buffer zone?
If it's along the buffer zone.
But the clearing limits are over here for construction.
Right, that's the question. Where do you want it right up against? So that's a stone wall at the edge of the property line.
Right, but they're already wiping this out. Well, they don't
The
really
understory.
they don't really need to wipe this out to build. The limited construction's way the heck over here.
Correct.
So that limit should have been over here to begin with.
Well, that was what they requested to go to cut down the entire understory in that 100-foot buffer zone and only leave the trees.
Okay, well, if they're doing that.
So you were at you guys who were at the last meeting, what was the discussion about that?
They were saying they were only gonna cut down the dead trees, right? I think it was only cut down the ones that are dead or dying, and they were gonna keep everything else, as I thought what they said.
Yeah.
So not leaving any of the habitat?
I don't think so.
But they're saying
I
that
think
they're
gonna make it all lawn.
They're saying that for construction purposes, they're wiping everything out up to this line.
Yes. Well, no, they're not saying for construction purposes, they're just saying.
No, it says limited clearing. So they're taking this out anyway, but in perpetuity, they're saying, we're just gonna take out some of it. It's already gone, once they're done building. That's what I mean. That's my point. It's a little too late, right?
But there's already an existing house there, and it's cleared to where? It's cleared to here?
Yeah.
It's cleared to the
They're already clearing the whole thing.
Cleared to.
Well, I see,
I only want to
see
draw
what
one of
what
these. See this
appears.
little bumpy thing?
Yeah, I see the
That's
tree line.
the tree
there.
line.
Yeah.
That's where it's cleared.
So they want to thin it back to about here.
They want to wipe out everything but the trees up to the edge of the property line.
Which we already gave them permission to do to construct the house.
You did, so where do you want the visual barrier? That's the question.
Okay.
Is it the full fence? Is it just signs? What are you requiring?
But there is a stone wall fence here.
There is a stone wall there.
So do we put it at the 100-foot buffer zone? It's gonna be in the middle of the lawn. Well, it's gonna be at the middle of the, they're not gonna put lawn in per se, right?
Well, it's going to be grass.
Yeah.
Under the trees. So if you put it there, then they can't mow the grass that they want to build, that they want to put there under the trees.
So do we limit it to maybe the, since the 25-foot no touch barely comes into the property line, what about the rear yard setback? The 25-foot rear yard setback along there?
Okay.
I mean, it's a compromise.
Yeah, that looks good enough.
That's what everybody.
So it'll be along the easterly property line, right, at the 25-foot yard setback line. Did they ask for it all around, like to the north too, where there's a 35 or? Oh, that's just our jurisdiction from the buffer, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That's fine. That answers the question.
Okay. That's all I had on that one.
Okay.
May I make a motion? Yep. I'll make a motion to issue the order conditions for file number 250-1051 as discussed.
Second. Lisa makes a motion to accept the order of conditions for file 250-1051 as discussed. Julian seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And we'll move on to, which one, Lisa?
Letter E?
C,
Move on
perhaps,
to
C?
C.
Comes after
which
B?
is, 250-1037.
Jennifer, 14D. Revised
14D.
pages of the SWIP.
Yep.
Did we ask them to change something?
We always need the revised pages of the SWIP because then they tell us who the contractor
Oh,
is and they
okay.
do the
That's what
training
you-
report
Okay.
and
So
all
do
of
we,
that.
if that's a standard condition, should we just say to the commission for review and approval or just for our file or something? It doesn't say who to,
Oh, all right. To the, well. Yep.
okay. And then E, provide funds to the town, for the town's consulting engineer. So, do we know that amount? Is that,
We won't have the amount until we get an estimate.
okay.
So E is, I mean, the 14 is just the quick and dirty synopsis for people because they always want to know, what do I have to do to start
Okay.
work? And then the actual conditions will come later on that explain what that's about.
Okay.
Number 34 should be vernal pool.
Got it. Thank
No
you.
activity shall occur within.
And then are we supposed to fill in 48 through 50?
We're good with 48. You can delete that. The fencing condition is just about the 6 inches off the ground, which they have on the plan.
Should we keep that on there though, just in case?
Yes, no,
Okay.
we'll keep 49 in there. 50
So,
is.
did you add anything to, I just have fencing condition, that's it.
Yeah, I'll word it.
Okay, so that 49 is gonna reiterate the fact that the fence needs to be 6 inches above ground surface?
Correct.
6-inch gap?
Yep.
Okay.
For what? For the wildlife movement. Management of the shading impact area. I mean, they're doing the one-time cut in the buffer zone so that the solar panels won't be shaded.
Yep.
And so are you going to allow them to go back in and cut anytime they want, or are they coming back to you for an additional cut?
They said they had to go, I remember this from one of the early meetings, they said they had to go beyond the fence, but did they say how far beyond the fence?
It's on the plan.
Okay.
The limits are on the plan.
Well, I mean, this thing's gonna expire in 3 years, so.
Okay.
But normally they would probably put them every, 10 years or?
Well, they didn't give us a maintenance plan on that.
Well, the average expansion of the canopy is 20 inches a year max.
I guess for the duration of the permit, at least, it should be no more than what was approved on the plans, right? The limit of trimming? I mean, I don't think they're gonna do it in 3 years.
They might do it in 5 years. So they would need to come back.
So can we ask them through this order to add that to their O&M?
Yep.
Okay. So if we reference that, you know, for the duration of the permit, they have to limit the clearing to what's shown on the plan, or the trimming show the plan, and then in addition, they should add that as an activity in their O&M plan?
Okay, and then you're gonna allow that as a perpetual condition?
At least it's in the O&M, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I should have circled 52. It's again, visual how are you gonna designate the visual barrier?
But this is.
So they're gonna,
That's outside of the fence though, right? The visual barrier?
right.
The whole thing's fenced, right?
The whole thing is, it's fenced, and then there's side slopes, and then the wetland. So if they're maintaining the side slopes, putting the sign on the fence isn't gonna remind anybody not to cut further toward the wetland. So, do you want markers on posts?
Can we put markers on both sides of the fence?
Anybody, well, I mean, just think about it visually. If you're maintaining that slope, either mowing or with a weed whacker, are you looking at the fence? Probably not.
So you want
You're
something
looking toward
on the slope?
You're gonna be looking toward the wetland. So how do you want it to be obvious to somebody who's maintaining that area not to go any further?
Probably.
I'm assuming you don't want the post and rail fence, because there's already a chain link fence, but somehow the markers should be up along the property to make sure that they're not going into it. So do you want it posted on the tree? Do you want it on a post? If it's on the post, how far apart do you want them?
Well, the tough part about saying you put it on a tree is you have no idea how far apart they are and how dense it is and.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think they can just put it on an 8-foot metal post, and, I mean, those are available all over the place, cheap.
Yeah.
So, and they can be as close as 15 feet apart. How long is this boundary?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
200
ask.
feet,
What's
or-
the length of that side?
I think it's 7 acres that they are
so
clearing.
around the entire thing? I thought it was
Not all of it is buffer zone.
Okay.
So just
we have to
within
be
the buffer
clear
zone.
on that, yeah, within the buffer zone, and we don't know how long that length is?
I mean, not off the top of my head, but we can.
But it's presumably like 100 feet or 200 feet?
I think it's similar to any of the commercial projects that we've done, where they put it in a pressure-treated post that's at least 4 feet off the ground.
But how many signs, if there's, 15 or 20 feet apart?
They may have gone 20 feet apart on those other ones.
Yeah, I mean, 20 feet is still close enough.
Okay.
That people won't get confused as to what's this about.
Great. I'm good with that one, unless somebody has anything else to add.
Anyone? So, entertain a motion to accept the proposed order of conditions to 250-1037 as amended,
As discussed,
as
yes.
discussed.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Lisa makes a motion to accept the OOC for 250-1037 as discussed. Julian seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Shall we move on to the ORAD for DEP file 250-1030, John Quattrochi.
No, that's continued.
Oh.
Yep, so the one under it. Oak Street.
By which I meant the order of conditions for 250-1031, Albert Faxon, REFM L2 LLC.
Yes.
Oak Street.
Jennifer, can you just take those so I don't lose them for the next one? For the one that was continued,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
my notes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Well, these are a monster because they're in every resource, ton of resource areas. And vernal pool.
Oh, shoot, I think I just gave you the beginning of my comments from. It's on the back.
Gonna hand
I'll
it
give them
all
to you at the
back.
end, thanks.
This was the one we were just discussing with
Correct,
the
That's
conservation
facts.
restriction.
correct.
Okay, thank you. All right. Oh, no, that's separate. That's the last one. Okay, here we go. Two. Let's see, two. This area is not bordering, it does not hold the requisite volume. I just wrote to qualify as ILSF.
Yep.
Okay, number 4, the vernal pool is within resource area. Do we know what the reference is for that? Is there a set of flags with that? Or a location?
Oh, yeah, okay. W. Yep, I can add that.
Okay, 6C, I think we talked about that, conservation restriction shall be placed on 7.8 acres of upland. We don't have to define it. Do we define it according to the plan? So the plan that Scott showed us had the cross hatching on it, was that 7.8 acres?
Yeah.
Okay. So should we reference it?
Well, the plan is the only plan that's approved.
Okay.
I don't know that you need to add it again,
Okay.
but we can if you want.
But what was it called on the plan?
Conservation restriction.
Oh, it was a CR, it wasn't just a deed restriction?
Correct.
Okay. Number 9. Should we strike the homeowner? Cannot be, since we're gonna hold it. We had the homeowner in there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So we can strike that last sentence and end it at evaluation, right?
Yes.
Okay. 27. Orange wireback silt fence shall be shall be required for sediment control in the driveway. So
You might want to look at the detail on the plan to see
Okay.
what's more appropriate. So down at the bottom is the driveway cross section.
Oh.
Right, so if the silt fence is only, what,
Yeah, well, it's-
2.5
does it
feet
show
tall,
it-
but the
show it
driveway
in plan view, though?
itself is all the way.
How far from the toe it is in plan view?
The plan shows it right up against it. The plan is not
Oh,
great.
yeah. So is this in the wetland itself?
Yes, it's right through the wetland.
Are they gonna do it in the dry?
I mean, they're gonna have to.
So if they do it in the dry, that's okay.
Okay.
I'm just gonna have to condition it that way.
That might be part of the sequence that they submitted. And we have it as a condition that it's installed in the dry.
Okay. Then I think it's okay.
Okay.
Sorry. we had 32 circled, which I think is fine because that has to show up at a minimum based on their SWIP.
Correct.
So I just put EPA, CGP.
Yep.
And then vernal pools, number 40. Does the homeowner know this?
We make 40 and 41, so they have the option depending on whatever the season is. There's two ways to do it there, so you have either 40 or 41, depending on when they actually start the work.
But 40 is in perpetuity for the homeowner, right?
No, it's during, this is during construction. They're not gonna be cutting anything after construction.
Okay, so this is just construction term. Okay.
And 42, it should be, no activity shall occur within the vernal pool.
Ah, thanks.
Okay, so
Actually, you might have to, 42, stay on that, except for the construction of the driveway.
except for the what?
Construction of the driveway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why are 40 and 41, why is it a choice between 40 and 41?
Because it's a time of year restriction.
Right, 40 is.
Yeah.
Yep. So if there's, so why wouldn't we require that if they're in no hurry?
Because I never know when people are actually gonna start the project. They might tell us that they're gonna start at a certain time, and then if they end up doing it in November, then they don't have another option.
So it should be an and/or, right?
Yeah.
So it should be, if there's cutting of upland vegetation within the buffer zone to the
Okay.
CVP.
Yep.
So merge 40 and 41?
Cutting between, yes.
Right.
Yep. Just
Okay.
give me a second to word that.
Yep.
In between. Okay, got it.
Okay, so 43 seems fine, that's just a means and method in the vernal pool habitat, right?
Yep.
Okay, 45,
45, once again, vernal pool rather than veneral pool. Third line down.
Ah, good.
all right, so is this in conflict with the vernal pool from March 1st to May?
No, that was from their work description.
But we still want to inspect the site prior to March 1st, right?
Yes.
So we have to strike that first sentence? Because we said they could do it.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So that's in conflict, okay.
Okay.
So we should say prior to construction, prior to cutting of any vegetation. Upland vegetation within the buffer zone to the CVP, right? That should be the intro to 45.
Okay, say it again. Prior to.
Prior, the same thing you have for 40, right? Prior to the cutting, prior to any cutting of upland vegetation within this buffer zone to the CVP.
Buffer zone to BVW containing the CVP.
Oh, you have buffer zone to the certified vernal pool in 40.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I'll make those match.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So 54, Scott said they were gonna put the stone swale in by the driveway, right?
Yes.
He also said Caltech units were gonna be installed at the house, right?
Yes. You want me to call out Caltech?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Was there a question on 56? We have 12 right there.
No. The ones circled are just ones that are, we don't typically have, so wanted to make sure you saw them.
Okay.
Then you're on the wetland replication section.
Yep.
Which almost all of that, if not all of it, was taken right from their narrative.
So do we want to, 65, do we want to be notified prior to?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. That's all I had.
Anyone else? Comments, discussion, concerns?
So I'll make a motion to issue the order conditions for file number 250-1031 as discussed.
Lisa makes a motion to issue OOC 250-1031 as discussed, seconded by Dan Doyle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Motion passes.
So it's actually 3-1 and 3-2 is a mistake here. It's 3-2. Is that right?
3-2.
1032.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, that wasn't 1031?
No. It's 1032.
Oh, why did it say
Why
10?
does it say
10?
Where are you seeing 3-1?
Oh, up at
From
the top.
the order of conditions.
Okay, well,
Got it.
It's 3-2.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's why we always say the number.
For the record,
We're good, Dan.
okay.
That's fine.
2.
Right, so we approved, yes, we voted?
Correct.
Yes. We have approved file number 250-1032.
Okay.
All right, so now you're up to draft minutes.
So we will consider we will review draft minutes for the November 18th, 2019 meeting. Any problems, comments, questions? Look pretty good to me. Anyone?
I move we approve the draft minutes of 11/18.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Julian makes a motion to approve the draft minutes for 11/18/19. Ron, seconded by Ron. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
We have to abstain. I have to abstain, actually. I wasn't there.
With
Sorry.
Lisa abstaining.
No?
You don't have to, but that's
Oh.
fine. You just did.
Too late now.
All right, new business. Lease of conservation property, Lions Field. I don't know what happened with that discussion last time, but we're not paying anybody there. If people lease conservation property, sometimes there is a fee to us to allow them to use a public land for a private purpose. They gave you a copy of the money that they actually spend maintaining the property, and you may consider that as adequate compensation for using public land. But the lease of conservation property is something that you do. It's mostly on the reservoir with the kayak company. And it's usually a one-year lease.
But there is a fee.
You can charge a fee, but where there's that's up to you.
But this is an existing ball field.
It's an existing ball field.
Well, not only that, it's
Yeah.
youth softball, it's not a for-profit company.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
baseball, softball,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. So we have to make a motion to issue this as a one-year lease?
We've never done anything more than a one-year lease.
Okay.
If you want to revisit that at another time, you can certainly do that, but I would recommend the one-year lease for now.
But it's not a complicated process, so.
Nope.
Nope.
There's no motivation for just not reviewing it here.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to issue a one-year lease to Norton Youth Baseball and Softball for the use of
Lions Field.
Lions Field on Dean Street.
Second.
Lisa makes a motion to issue a one-year lease of Lions Field on Dean Street, seconded by Julian. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Okay, and do you just want to say anything about charging of the fee? No fee?
No.
Well, we didn't make a motion with a fee, so.
Okay.
Um,
I just want it to be clear in the notes, that's all. And so usually just the chairman signs it, but he's not here tonight, so Julian, you're the vice chair. 12-2, yep. We do have a couple things to do in open session. Thank you. Did you have something you wanted to hand back to me?
No, that was
This was it, okay.
I'll move on to old business.
Yeah, we don't have anything to discuss, except our open session. So DEP is revising the regulations. Did I forward that to everybody? May or may not have read it. There'll be a public hearing on it. The main thing is that they're requiring in the regs that once we issue a permit, it gets sent to DEP by certified mail, not by regular mail and not by email.
And we have to pay for that, or the applicant? We do that?
Well, we have to pay for that. It doesn't come out of our budget, it comes out of the town hall postage budget.
Okay.
And up until this year, we've always done it by certified mail. We just sort of figured, we stopped doing it this year, but,
Coincidentally, okay.
well, it's not just us. The other thing is, there's a note about abutter notices, and that it doesn't automatically, just because you got an abutter notice, doesn't automatically give you appeal rights. You still have to participate in the meeting. And then there are changes to the wetland plant list that had been modified by the Army Corps of Engineers. So there used to be categories of obligate, facultative, fac plus, facultative wetland minus,
Yep.
and they cut it all out to just be obligate, facultative wetland, or facultative, to make it a little simpler. So those are the changes, just so you know about them. We did get a copy of a letter from the building inspector about 184 West Main Street, where they had cut and cleared, it looks like well over an acre. When I went to the site and looked on the aerial photograph, it is within riverfront area and 100 foot to the buffer zone, and so we sent a violation notice. I drafted an enforcement order, but the person did contact, the owner did contact me today, and they're being cooperative, so, I mean, I would hold off on the enforcement
which one
order
is
if we
that?
need to.
Where's this site? What is it near?
What the heck is it called?
It's not near the on-ramp to the highway.
No, it's down West Main Street.
Is it the-
Home plate,
Oh,
Oh,
that, where the cable station is, way in the back.
so is that big complex, you mean?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So the significant amount of clear cutting. We talked today about temporary site stabilization.
is it a business?
It's, yeah, it's a whole, it's a little strip mall.
So,
Watch up curve.
I was gonna say that, but I don't think anybody knows where that is.
What is it?
Box shop curve. It's a big bend in the road. See, nobody's gonna know what that is.
But why did they clear so much? What's the point?
We didn't really get into that. We just try to move forward with, you made a mistake, you need to correct it, and they're being cooperative, so they understand their wetland riverfront area restoration plan will be required.
Should we give a deadline for it?
Well, that's kind of why I drafted the enforcement order, but then he sent me a copy of a plan today. I made notes on it, sent it back to him, and I said we should do a site inspection. And then we can get into when it's going to be permanent, temporarily stabilized for winter, and a deadline of, when is he going to hire a wetland consultant to go over this with him. Yes. Lots of people have donated time and energy and some materials to Edith Reed Conservation Properties, so we have thank you letters for those people. So if you just sign those, we don't need a motion or anything. There's a note that MACC dues are going up again 2%, and so for fiscal year 21, our dues will be $513 for everybody to be a member of MACC. And the last thing is we will have a intern from Wheaton College come in for a couple of weeks during winter break. That person never contacted me. She's actually going to be helping draft the vernal pool manual that I'm working on with Matt Byrne. So we're just going to have her do a whole bunch of research and just start outlining the manual that we're planning to work on.
So we want to consider scheduling a site visit?
Yes, thank you. Site inspection options.
Options for well, anyway, the golf.
Thanks.
The golf.
Yes, thank you.
Tournament Players Club.
Thank you.
I guess afternoons are better. Two people can't do Saturday. That is this coming Saturday, Pearl Harbor Day.
The weekday afternoons work the best for me.
Weekday afternoons. Does anyone else have any interest or restriction against weekday afternoons?
No. But, I mean, some days I'm working, so.
Yeah, I can only do Fridays, but.
Friday, that's a Saturday. Friday the 13th I'm working. Friday the 20th I'm able.
Okay, we want to,
That's after the next meeting though, right?
Yes.
Yes.
so what about shall we try this Friday, the 6th?
Yeah, I'm working, but,
Yeah, if Fridays don't work, just do another day. Don't let me hold you up.
Okay, shall we consider Tuesday the 10th in the afternoon?
I could do Tuesday the 10th, but
Shall we consider then Wednesday the 11th in the afternoon?
Yeah, you may remember, that's the Blue Star project.
Oh, is it the groundbreaking?
The groundbreaking, what is it, 1 to 3, or is it new to, I
I think it's 1 to 3.
Yeah, 1 to 3.
Sounds right.
So, certainly, I was gonna go just to look, and after that would work for me, and that's no problem.
3 o'clock on Wednesday the 11th?
Yeah, that would work.
Okay. Let's give them that as a time. And do we want to give them, I believe it was suggested we might give them multiple choice of other times? Is there any?
You could try for one more and then,
So Friday the 13th is bad. What about Thursday the 12th? Which is...
I can go on Thursday as well.
I could go on Thursday the 12th, yeah.
Can anyone not go on Thursday the 12th? Let's say Thursday the 12th in the afternoon at 3 o'clock again? Is that
Yeah.
acceptable?
Yeah, it works.
My calendar tells me that it's Virgin of Guadalupe Day in Mexico, but I don't know if that will... So we will give them then these two possible times, Wednesday the 11th at 3 and Thursday the 12th at 3.
And we'll get an email
yes,
clarifying that.
you'll get it tomorrow or Wednesday morning.
If nobody has anything else, I have to finish signing this, but I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? Julian makes, Ron makes a motion to adjourn, seconded by Julian. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.